Good evening. My name is Joshua Free, and tonight we are reintroducing the world on YouTube to the realm of the Mardukite Chamberlains as part of our 10th anniversary reboot online. For nearly a decade, the work of the Mardukite Chamberlains has reached exponential heights, and what we are doing for the 10th anniversary is reintroducing Necronomicon, the Anunnaki Bible, as a 10th anniversary collector's edition. And this is available to the public in hardcover in its complete, revised, and updated form for the first time ever. Over the past decade, there's been actually a lot of work generated by the Mardukite Chamberlains underground as the Mardukite Research Organization, and of all that, the most celebrated and probably the most widely anticipated of the 10th anniversary reboot reissues is Necronomicon, the Anunnaki Bible. It's the main source book. And this 10th anniversary collector's edition, if you can imagine holding in your hands essentially a complete library of the oldest writings on the planet, a complete collection of what would be hundreds of cuneiform tablets translated right from the heart of Mesopotamia, the cradle of civilization. A quick examination of our Mardukite channel on YouTube will show that we actually have quite a history online involving this work. The purpose of this 10th anniversary reboot is actually to not only solidify the work that we've done for the people that have been involved this past decade, but also to reintroduce and present for a fresh new generation, the next gen, reintroduce this methodology of the Mardukite work for basically a new generation of truth seekers. So before we get neck deep into a whole video series about what the specifically Mardukite Necronomicon or the Anunnaki Bible is, it's important that we distinguish it in consciousness from what it is not, because these words Necronomicon or even Anunnaki have certain connotations in our minds already, perhaps, especially given pop culture or even certain up and popular History Channel shows. First and foremost, Necronomicon, the Anunnaki Bible, for whatever feelings you may have about the words Necronomicon, the contents within this is not Lovecraftian fiction. It is, in fact, a collection of the most ancient writings on the planet. These are Sumerian, Babylonian, Assyrian, Akkadian, cuneiform tablets. So the contents in and of itself is not stories. What it does reflect is the most ancient truths, the most ancient writings, the most ancient basis for religion, what some people call magic, the technology of the gods, all of that. It represents all of that, which is something that I believe H.P. Lovecraft was trying to reflect in his stories about a primordial time in ancient times. As far as our purposes in modern times, in the world at large, the ancient Mesopotamian realm is where we're going to find a reflection of these things. So when I say this is not Simon's Necronomicon, I mean that in the most literal sense. People have been doing that for years online, especially with on-demand publishing, and even trying to duplicate the work of the Mardukites to less respectful groups and organizations. So it is not a rehash of Simon's Necronomicon. Now, those who are aware of Mesopotamian history and those who are aware of Simon's Necronomicon, obviously there is a bastardized version of the Mardukite tradition being reflected in the Simon Necronomicon, with basically a collection there being of very loose fragments of the ancient Babylonian Mardukite tradition, which we reflect, many decades later, we reflect in its entirety. So this doesn't discredit its efforts, the previous efforts. And unfortunately, I think what most people have had issues with is not the actual information or the content, but the context itself. Most of the controversy surrounds the word Necronomicon in and of itself. So in the spirit of, Lovecraftian tradition, in the spirit of what most people understand on a practical or historical sense the Necronomicon to be in terms of ancient Mesopotamia, Necronomicon, the Anunnaki Bible, represents the most complete Necronomicon as an Anunnaki Bible, a collection of the most ancient writings that were the basis for all of that, and everything that came thereafter. This tradition has been copy and pasted for millennia through many cultures all across the globe using the same framework. And the purpose in developing the Mardukite methodology in today's world is to go back to the beginning, go back to the sources, look at this stuff at face value, and examine it anew. And this is something that we began doing publicly 10 years ago and are now celebrating the 10th anniversary of. Really, even just a casual exploration of the pages within Necronomicon, the Anunnaki Bible, they will reveal that this is something amazingly fresh and beautifully coherent, satisfying the needs of our current information age, whereby this new generation of truth seekers, we're taking great lengths at uncovering the lost and forgotten truths of humanity, where we came from, where we are, and where we are headed. Before we get too far into the video series, I would like to take at least a minute and introduce myself formally for especially those who don't know who I am or what I'm representing here. So I first became involved in the underground metaphysics, New Age, occult movement in the mid-1990s. I was 12 years old. I was initiated into the Barrel Druid tradition and eventually actually became an apprentice of Douglas Monroe and another book of legendary renown. This December 22nd, I actually have my own facsimile anthology of the Book of Barrel being released. But I spent the last almost 25 years now actively involved in the underground New Age movement. And in 2008, launched the Mardukite Chamberlains, Mardukite Research Organization, which has since developed many works resulting from many years of research and development. I'm also the director of New Babylon, which is a physical office that facilitates the Mardukite movement and also the permanent basis of our publishing division. So what we plan to do, being the 10th anniversary, is begin with a video series that reintroduces our source book, Necronomicon, the Anunnaki Bible.